Mariana, a palestra vai ser em português ou em inglês? Como é que nós fazemos? Mariana?
Professor? Professor? Oi, oi, oi.
Ok. Quem que está pela academia, por favor?
Oi, oi, oi. Canal de inglês. Canal de inglês. Oi, oi, oi.
Anderson Pontes, obrigado.
Cris, vamos testar, gente? Olá. Hello, hello. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay.
Testando inglês. Alô, alô. Bom dia. Bom dia. Bom dia no canal de inglês.
Não, peraí. De novo. Vai,
Bom dia no canal
Peraí.
de inglês.
só um minuto.
Você colocou lá? Você colocou lá no... Testou no canal de inglês? Tá legal? Beleza, vou para o português.
Vamos iniciar o evento. Iniciamos o segundo dia do seminário 70 anos de CNPq, 1951-2021, passado, presente e futuro.
Good morning. We are starting our seminar for the celebration of 70 years of CNPq. We are going to start the first roundtable on international partnerships.
Recording in progress.
Our moderator is going to be Professor José Galizia Tundizi. He is online. He is a former president of CNPq and president of the Association of Ecology, Management of Ecology of São Carlos. We also invite Minister Ana Beatriz, Deputy Chief of the delegation of the European Union in Brazil. And also online, we have Director of Science and Innovation for Latin America of the Embassy of the UK, Cindy Parker, and Diego Arruda, Senior Manager of Science of the Embassy of the United Kingdom. So I give the floor to our moderator, Professor Tundizi. Good morning. Good morning. First of all, I'd like to thank the president of CNPq for the invitation to moderate this table. It is a discussion that is extremely important. As we all know, CNPq is a strategic institution for Brazil. Established over 70 years ago, it played a key role for the country's scientific and technological development, supporting science, technology, and innovation, and supporting infrastructure for research and development in Brazil. Many researchers of Brazil and many institutions in Brazil carried out their work because of the support of CNPq in the different periods of their histories. 70 years is an important landmark. It is very important for CNPq because it marks the presence of an institution that was of major importance in the development of the country, especially in the area of science and technology and innovation. Therefore, it is a major pleasure for me to be here moderating this roundtable, and I am very pleased and very thankful for this invitation. In our roundtable, we're going to have Maria Zaira Turki, Director of International Cooperation of CNPq, Minister Ana Beatriz Martins, Chief of the Deputy Delegation of the European Union in Brazil, Dr. Cindy Parker, Director for Science and Innovation for Latin America of the Embassy of the United Kingdom in Brazil, and Mr. Diego Arruda, Senior Manager for Science of the Embassy of the United Kingdom. Very high-level table with different experiences, different authorities, and I would like to give the floor to Minister Ana Beatriz Martins for her presentation. I'd like to salute all my colleagues here in this table, all my colleagues Cindy Parker, Mr. Diego Arruda, and Professor Tundizi as well. And
Evaldo Vilela, pela celebração dos 70 anos desta importante instituição que tanto tem feito.
It is a major pleasure being here, celebrating the 70 years of this institution that is so important for science and technology in Brazil. I'd like to thank also the European Union for the invitation and to celebrate as well this long-lasting partnership in the area of science and technology, dating back to 2004, based on a cooperation agreement between the European Commission and the government of Brazil. A 20-year agreement. It was the first institutional agreement established between Brazil and the European Union, even before the strategic partnership. It entered into force in 2007, in the same year of the strategic partnership. This historical perspective reflects our bilateral relations. Along the years, the agreement allowed to incentivize and develop cooperation in different areas based on the principles of reciprocal benefits, the co-financing, and different invitations were very efficient mechanisms for us to accomplish our goals. The program Horizons is in its 9th edition. And when we talk about this cooperation in the Horizons program, we must remember the fulcral role, together with CONFAP, guaranteeing quality and synchrony, approving Brazilian candidacies. We just renewed this partnership when we signed the administrative arrangement for our new period. The partnership supports innovative solutions and the accomplishment of targets regarding sustainability and climate change. We have a cooperation that is even stronger and comprehensive based on what we built in our program, dating 2014 to 2020. I'd like to reiterate the link of the project BELA. We make available for researchers and the academic community a link by optic fiber, and it is an essential tool for research because it helps in computational powers and capabilities. We have also a link with Copernicus, a European satellite, and also the system Amazônia 1 in Brazil. The cooperation involves 120 million reals, and there is a counterpart of around 15 million euros by Brazil. We have also topics on digital transformation, especially regarding 5G, internet, IoT, cloud solutions, and technologies, agriculture, manufacturing, and it is also very relevant, the development of the transatlantic cooperation in the maritime area. The result includes several countries across the Atlantic Ocean, focusing on maritime research. In addition, we include competitive financing involving researchers in all fields. There are also other financing activities in Europe, and it is an emblematic component in Europe. Now, looking at the future, I'd like to mention a joint transnational call under the partnership Water for All. It will support research and innovation projects aimed at producing knowledge, new approaches and tools that are more efficient for water processes related to extreme events. The project Water for All is close to the Green Deal and also other projects, including the SDGs. We believe that it has straight cooperation with Brazil. Once again, I'd like to congratulate CNPq for its 70 years, and it is great that we're going to be able to explore new paths together in order to get together our scientists and our peoples.
Professor Stondizzi, está sem som. Acho que o senhor está com... Obrigado.
Eu faço.
Está ouvindo agora?
Can you hear me now? Yes. I would like to thank Minister Ana Beatriz Martins for her presentation. It was a very clear presentation, very informative about the cooperation between Brazil and United Kingdom and European Commission, I'm sorry. I was, 2 years ago, I was working in the project with water resources, and we had this cooperation document between Brazil and European Union for exploration of innovation and urban waters. So I know well this cooperation, and I know it has been working very well, and it has engaged the cooperation between researchers from Europe and Brazil. So thank you very much. And without a question, this cooperation is fundamentally important for Brazil and also Europe, because it brings mutual benefits for Europeans and Brazilians. Now, I would like to give the floor to Cindy Park, which is the Director of Innovation in the Embassy of the United Kingdom. Thank you very much and welcome. Thank you. It's really a pleasure to be here participating with you. This week, I am finishing. This is my last week in this role as a manager of the science team at the British Embassy. I remember 4 years ago when I arrived in Brasilia, one of the first people that I have met was Professor Mayar Saida. And she was with the president of CNPq, Mario Borges. And for the next years, we have worked a lot together, and we have had a lot of partnerships, and also with FAPI and Professor Evaldo. And now as president of CNPq. So I am among friends. I feel like this, and it's a pleasure to participate. I'm going to talk a little bit about the context of science in the United Kingdom. I'm going to share my screen with my colleague, Diego. So I'm going to speak first in English, and then Diego is going to speak in Portuguese. So I'm going to take these minutes for you to enjoy the simultaneous translation option. If you want to turn on the simultaneous translation, you can do it.
Only because then I can speak more fluently and you don't hear my horrible attempts at the subjunctive in Portuguese. So the UK, we we're very proud of our science history, and I think our history speaks for itself, from Newton to Darwin, Ada Lovelace, Tim Berners-Lee, Alexander Fleming, Stephen Hawking, and most recently Sarah Gilbert. I think science is really part of our national DNA. But post-Brexit, we've been reflecting as a country on how do we develop a resilient and sustainable economy that really has science at the heart of it. And how do we make sure that our groundbreaking science and research and technology is spread across the country, and so it's creating opportunities for everybody. And the central sort of idea behind our thinking and our research over this period is around two really key objectives. And the first one is here, which is about the UK becoming a science superpower, retaining our position as a science superpower, and really harnessing our science capability for global good. And some of the ways that we're trying to do that are set out there in the presentation. So it's very much continuing to invest in world-class science. UKRI, referred to there as our UK Research and Innovation Agency, the UK's sort of research funding agency, making sure that it is as effective as possible in making sure we drive the very best science through our science network. And very much about working with other people. I mean, science is best done together. So working amongst our own science and working with our fantastic international partners, bringing together our best minds to work on the global challenges that face us all. And the second part, on the second slide, Diego, moving on. The second part of our aim is really being an innovation nation. So looking at within ourselves about how are we connecting our science expertise with the rest of our economy. And again, some of the ways that we're trying to do that are set out there. So really this challenge of bringing together academia, our best scientists, with industry and with business. And I'd even extend that, say, with our political thinking as well, and our policies. How is science underpinning that? How are we helping our best entrepreneurs and innovative scientists to take their ideas, into the marketplace so that they really can help to change people's lives, and improve our societies. I think one of the shifts that we have seen through a review that we did is a much closer focus on investing in the technologies of tomorrow and high growth sectors. I think we talk a lot more about technologies in addition to innovation, whereas that term, I think it's generally been science and innovation. We talk a lot more about technologies now than we used to. And I think we've done a lot more, and we're doing a lot more to invest in these innovation clusters and driving these sort of innovations and technologies. So I think these are the two aspects that we're trying to achieve, which is around that sort of still investing in the breakthrough technologies like genomics, robotics, but also at the same time making sure that we have these pathways to help the best ideas, the newest ideas, go through the process of proof of concept and financing, and then to global commercialization. It's quite a change. I mean, it's sort of things we've been doing, but changing the culture, or achieving these aims has required a new sort of restructuring or rewiring of our science ecosystem. So we brought in a number of changes. This is on the next slide. Thank you. So there have been a number of new structures and new institutions that we've brought in to help us deliver these twin objectives. So we've created a new National Science and Technology Council, which is supported by an Office for Science and Technology Strategy. And this is really about putting science at the very heart of political decision making. So these are, committees that will inform our Prime Minister and our leading politicians, making sure that we're harnessing the very best that science has to offer within the political system. We're increasing our investment in science, 2.4%. by 2027. But there's a very strong drive to make sure that the investment does not just go to the traditional centres, which are around the southeast, or our Golden Triangle, as we refer to it, London and Oxford and Cambridge, but making sure that these opportunities and this investment is spread across the UK, so we harness the full potential of our scientific capability. And this is being sort of, I suppose, accelerated by investing in specific innovation clusters. There's one around Manchester on material science, something in the West Midlands more focused on robotics and advanced manufacturing. And in Scotland, around Glasgow, we have a centre around advanced satellites and manufacturing. And a lot of this is our objectives here are set out around an innovation strategy, which we published last year. And this really looked very carefully about where we felt the UK had greatest technological strength and capability. And that identified 7 technology families that I'm going to challenge myself to remember. But it's around advanced materials and manufacturing, AI and digital, bioinformatics, genomics, electronics, photonics, energy and environment technologies, and robotics and smart machines. And these are areas where our research shows that the UK really has particular capability, and this is the areas that we're going to focus on. And we've also done in order to these ambitions are fantastic, but we need the capability to help deliver it. So we've done a lot of thinking and reviewing around our research ecosystem. So looking at how can we make it as agile as possible, reducing red tape, finding ways to perhaps be more agile in funding decisions, and creating new paths or career paths for our own scientists and international scientists to come and build their careers in the UK. And one of the most recent changes was the launch of our new Advanced Research and Invention Agency, ARIA, which is quite similar to the US has a similar thing called DARPA. This is essentially an independent sort of discovery, science and innovation agency, which is going to be supported by £800 million of government funding. And this is very much about pushing the frontiers of science. And how do we empower our exceptional scientists to be able to focus on perhaps that sort of high risk, high reward projects that traditional funding may be a bit anxious to take on. So all of that together, I think, to say that this is sort of what the UK's vision of how we're going to harness science and innovation is, and how the mechanisms through which and priorities through which we want to engage with our international partners. So what does this all mean for UK-Brazil collaboration? Well, I think we are very fortunate that we have a long-standing partnership, really strong partnership with between the UK and Brazil on science. It's an incredibly important part of our bilateral relationship, and we have really high levels of mobility between our researchers in both directions. So we have a lot of partnership already, and we've done a lot of work in recent years through various programs that Diego's going to talk about. So these changes at our end are really about tweaking our priorities and our mechanisms, and that is going to be able to be taken forward on this foundation that we already have with international partners. In terms of the sort of priorities that my team are looking at here in Brazil, our top priorities are around critical and emerging technologies, climate and environment, which includes everything around energy transition, biodiversity, the future of transport, everything that is linked to environment, and global health and health security, which again are areas that we've been working together on for a number of years. So I'm going to pass over now to Diego, and he's going to give some examples of the type of collaborations that we've done and the sort of frameworks that we'll be looking at to continue doing here in Brazil. Thanks very much. Over to you, Diego. Passo a palavra a você.
Thank you, Cindy. So as agreed, I'm going to be switching to Portuguese back.
Thank you very much, Cindy, for your very nice explanation. the purpose and the development of science in the United Kingdom. I am quite sure that all of us know the power of science in England. As I told you before, I was trained in England, and I could change my entire professional life with my training in English in England, in the UK also. And therefore, thank you very much for your explanation of the aims and development of the British scientific endeavor. Thank you. Now, please, Diego Arruda.
Obrigado, professor José.
Thank you, Professor José. Can you hear me? Yes? Perfect. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I would like to thank you, the members of this panel. I thank you, the professor, for this mediation, and Professor Maya Turki. I thank you for our long collaboration history, and Papi, and also Professor Vilela, president of CNPq, which I have met when he was the president of another institution. So it's a pleasure to participate here for the 7th anniversary of CNPq. I congratulate you all for this work, for this cooperation history over the last years. I would say the last decade that I have been participating here with the United Kingdom. As Cindy has mentioned, I'm going to show you very briefly, demonstrating for you in a very practical way what this collaboration between Brazil and United Kingdom means, and the role and the importance of CNPq in this. And I'm going to say how important was this collaboration to overcome global challenges, how this science has an important role to face some of the global challenges that we have. And in this sense, I would like to start talking about one of the main mechanisms, bilateral mechanisms over the last decade. It was a fund of innovation and technology, and we'd like to, in the areas of health, agriculture, 75 million pounds since 2014, and we end this cycle in 2021. And we have been lucky to work with CNPq because we established the mobility calls between the British researchers through doctor's degrees scholarships. To also talk to you about the type of collaboration that we have had in the first years, I would say about the first project.
It addresses the visions of Brazilian researchers discussing the COP26. We carried out in June 2021, just before the meeting in Glasgow of the COP, the project Visions of Brazil COP26, with renowned Brazilian scientists to debate concerns and suggestions of the Brazilian community regarding CO2 emissions reductions. We carried out this discussion, and we summarized the main recommendations of the Brazilian academic community about biodiversity, sustainable use of the sustainable land use and agriculture. And we have this cooperation, and we spoke about evidence gaps for mechanisms to influence decision-making so that they are taken into account when we discuss the COP26. This is a first example. We can see the publication in this slide. We spoke about this vision and the main points that were taken into account when we discussed COP26. Another project I'd like to mention is the platform Viewpoint. It shares or it disseminates information for decision makers in Brazil. through information with explanatory notes in clear language, etc. It involves scientific evidence that may and that can subsidize decision making, both public and private. It is based on scientific evidence. We also have another partnership called Science for Climate Services and carried out by the Meteorological Office of the UK and the Brazilian consortium of INPA and the INPE and also the National Service for Monitoring in São José dos Campos. So it is a long-lasting project. We studied three main areas: carbon cycle, climate modeling, and impact of disaster reduction mechanisms. And we use this information both for private and public players. The communication, well, this is a platform for the dissemination of scientific evidence. Since it is an example that it is conducive to relevant partnerships. This is an invitation for you to please go and have a look in our platform. It is quite interesting. This is a Brazilian researcher, Liana Baicemadem, and she worked in an information node about floods and flooding and the risk management for disasters, producing evidence for society. It was just a brief and very fast presentation. I'd like to once again reiterate the relevance of CNPq and thank all of you of the Brazilian academic community for your partnership with the UK. This is our contact if you'd like further information. And as Cindy mentioned, this is her last appearance. She is leaving, and we're going to have a new director called David Lloyd Davis. So please feel free if you'd like to get in touch with us. Thank you, Professor. Thank you, Diego, for your presentation. It is very important to underline this cooperation with the UK, especially regarding climate change, because this is an essential issue for the future of mankind. And no doubt, we cannot solve climate problems just with knowledge in the country. We actually need to have collaboration from throughout the world, from across the world, so that we can have a global view. It is very interesting to decode information or scientific information. It is a project extremely important and extremely interesting. It is also a target for us in Brazil, trying to convey scientific information to the majority of the information, schools, professors, etc. This is a very interesting project and important. Also about floods. Flooding is very important that we study that we cover that regarding climate change and the effects of disasters, and we experience them quite a lot here in Brazil. I thank you for your presentation, and it showed also the intensity of the relations between Brazil and the UK. They're very strong relations and certainly will continue. Now I'd like to give the floor to Professor Maria Zaira Turki, Director of International Cooperation of CNPq, for her presentation on partnership building at CNPq. Thank you, Professor, for your participation. Thank you, Professor Tundizi. Initially, I'd like to salute all participants here in this round table, Minister Ana Beatriz of the European Union, Director Cindy Parker. It is great to be able to see you and to rely on your last participation as a director. We have worked together for many years, and together with Diego as well, we have worked for many years regarding especially international cooperation. So it was great to see you here, and Diego as well, and Minister Ana Beatriz, especially to greet and embrace Professor Tundizi, former president of CNPq, but always president. Great Brazilian researcher, an inspiration for all of us, a pride for all of us. So our greetings, and even in this difficult moment, you are here with us. You're together, you're participating of celebrations of the 70 years of CNPq.
Tundizi, por toda a sua trajetória, por tudo que o senhor faz pela ciência, fez, continua fazendo, e pelo Brasil. Né?
So thank you very much for everything that you have done for science and for Brazil as well. Warm greetings. Thank you for your kind words. Thank you. Professor Zaira, your camera is off. Could you please wait for a couple of moments so that we can sort this out?
Bom, eu vou seguir, parece que temos aí um probleminha técnico que só me vê quem está no auditório, mas eu estou aqui. Tá?
So it seems that I cannot open my camera, but I'm here and we can speak to each other. And I'm here and speaking to all of you. This is a very important moment of celebration of the 70 years of CNPq. We are starting a new year, and this event celebrates the 70 years, even though we are going into the 71 years. But I am very honored to participate in the condition of Director of Institutional Cooperation. This would be the authorities that represent Brazilian science, international science, authorities that make international cooperation happen. I'd like to greet the Professor Valdo Vilela, President of CNPq, José Ricardo, Director, and also a special salute to General Coordinators of the Directorate of Institutional Cooperation. I am honored to work there, especially in this special year of celebration. Marco Ramos, Coordinator of National Partnerships, Lédio Felp, General Coordination of the International Area, and also the whole team of institutional cooperation. They are all great. The team is very dedicated, qualified, and engaged. Thank you, Delaine Cunha, who helped me with the preparation of materials for this roundtable, and Lisandra Santos, the advisor at the department. I'd like to congratulate all civil servants at CNPq. This party that we are having today is thanks to the competent and dedicated and engaged work of all the staff. I also would like to note the presence of Professor Ogis of CONFAP, presidents of foundations to support research, FAPESP, FAPEG, my friend Hobson, thank you. It is emotional. I'm sorry, it is emotional, but it is major for me to be here with all of you. We do have major cooperation, both at the national and international level. It is very significant for us that states are here with us, with CNPq, to talk about international partnerships and cooperation and international cooperation. I would like to say that on the perspective of CNPq, I would like to mention a few actions and initiatives and agreements carried out by CNPq. Also, the ideas that we have for the international area. Certainly, the present and the past, the present and the future are based on an important past of work in the international area by CNPq. Yesterday, Professor Luiz Davidotti, president of ABC, brought to us that CNPq was created in a moment that was a landmark just after the Second World War. And there was a concern about scientific advancements, especially in the nuclear area. So it is relevant that we talk today, that we mention today that CNPq was created and established just 1 year after the National Science Foundation.
So Brazil was at a level, international level, to discuss science. So this is what we are celebrating now in the 70 years in an international context. So to speak about CNPq is to necessarily speak about the international partnerships that have been established in favor of science development and to answer to the great challenges, to the great global challenges that have to be analyzed in terms of a regional perspective, and there are great challenges, and Brazil with CNPq has been put in an international order since then, and the international area is very important for CNPq, and we act on it very often. Regarding the way CNPq promotes collaboration since its creation, promotes collaboration with foreign institutions, we make the connections between Brazil and foreign countries, and we have bilateral actions, agreements with countries. We have multilateral actions that involve more countries, special actions, and also innovation actions, as I will show in some examples as from this next slide. The mechanisms that CNPq uses to have this international cooperation is through cooperation agreements with similar agencies in each country that have the mission that like CNPq has here in Brazil. And CNPq acts funding projects, research projects in collaboration that involve scholarships and also research funding of cost, capital, grants to enable the development, the collaborative development of projects. From these agreements, from these bilateral agreements or multilateral agreements that we have, CNPq has 140 instruments celebrated with 40 countries throughout the years. So it's a very impressive participation, very extensive participation in the international scenario. Of course, each one of these instruments in a timely manner were celebrated, and we advanced in the diplomacy, the scientific diplomacy, and some of them are active and others are not. In this picture, we selected some examples. We have the partnership with European Union in the picture at the top, when we have signed a new administrative arrangement with the European Union. This arrangement is an instrument that was signed among European Union, CNPq, CONFAP, and FINEP, and it enables us to work together, Brazilian agencies and European Union, to accomplish actions, to participate in projects, in calls, as the minister has shown us, that we can do a lot in the context of 2020, and that certainly we'll be able to continue to do in this program for Horizon Europe. So we have a new celebration of this agreement, and this collaboration has been very successful. We also have with Switzerland cooperation that enables calls for an international program of scientific entrepreneurship. They are calls that aim to promote the productive sector and the startups connection. So it's an agreement between Brazil and Switzerland. And with Sweden, we have launched calls for the interchange of researchers every 2 years. And it's a program that is followed, monitored closely by the Air Force and also for the health sector. every 2 years, these areas, they make the decision what kind of action they will take. We also have the involvement of our Ministry of Science and Technology in these many corporations, bilateral and multilateral corporations. We also have the CNPq and Petrograu partnership. There is a selection to grant scholarships to train human resources, highly qualified human resources in this area, part here and part in other countries where Petrograu operates. How the international collaboration is implemented by CNPq? By granting scholarships to researchers, and these scholarships are to develop research projects. So CNPq has for its mission to foment science, support the scientific and technological development, and the scholarships are granted to the researchers in this scope. We also support the participation and organization of scientific and technological innovation events. We also promote partnerships with the productive sector and the open of startups, and we promote joint calls for the interchange of researchers to collaborate in projects. This map gives us an idea of the presence of CNPq all over the world. When we talk about 40 countries, we can see North America, Central America, Latin America, Europe, Asia. In Africa, we have less countries, but we have South Africa, we have Morocco. We also have some countries in north of Africa, but we have a very big cooperation of CNPq with a lot of these agencies through these agreements that were signed. Some of them are still active, others don't. And at the moment, CNPq has 22 cooperation agreements for bilateral actions that we have signed with these countries that you can see in the slides. I don't want to take too much time. I'm not going to read them all. But these agreements are made with the similar agencies from each one of these countries. We can also talk about the multilateral cooperation with the United Kingdom. I think it's in the wrong place because it's a multilateral collaboration, but we are thinking about all the countries that integrate the European Union. Cooperation with companies. We have a protocol of cooperation between CNPq and Petrobras with scholarships as well to qualify human resources in this area. We have a partnership agreement of CNPq and Shell, also scholarships focused on having excellent researchers in strategic areas. Also, an agreement between CNPq and ITV, partnership agreement with CNPq and Petrograu. There were a number of joint calls for the institutions and the universities that are connected to Petrograu. The cooperation agreement between CNPq and AstraZeneca to call researchers and to promote technology in the AstraZeneca and also associated universities. And to give you an idea of the extension of the mechanisms and the countries with which CNPq has a partnership, I want to briefly show you in these 70 years, view of the cooperation that we have. On this slide, we have the multilateral cooperation actions. We have PEC-PG, which is a program for students. It's a consortium of graduate courses, which are foreign students that come here and they are welcomed by our universities to have their doctor's degree or their graduate studies. And also with TWAS, we have the World Science Academy. We also have an interchange program, which are initiatives to contribute to form human resources for science, and that enable network to be created. And this is part of an international area, which is the science diplomacy, the international policy of Brazilian for soft power. In terms of multilateral cooperation actions, we also have CITED, which is a program created in 1984 that gathers 21 countries from Europe and America that is focused on innovation. We have annual calls, and CONFAP is coming to reinforce this action that we do with many countries. It's very welcomed. CNPq contributes for a fund that enables each one of these funds, each one of these calls, the participation of Brazilian in this project. It is very good to be able to count with these actions to expand this cooperation among the countries. Also, within multilateral cooperation, I will highlight the Pierre Roger Observatory. Brazil participates in this project through supporting the teams, the Brazilian teams of research that are installed there, and with an annual contribution that runs the observatory that is located in Argentina. And besides Pierre Roger, we also participate at CERN, CERN, which is the European Organization of Nuclear Research. Brazil has recently been integrated to that, but CNPq since 1990 has been already participating with Brazilian researchers in the 5 main experiments of CERN at LHC. It's a continuous partnership. Very briefly, we have multilateral cooperation partnership with the BRICS, Brazil, Russia, and India, and South Africa and China. Since 2016, we have had 4 calls, and there is a 5th call in course among these countries. As I said before, Minister, in the multilateral cooperation actions, we have put this, but it's actually bilateral cooperation for European Union. I think there was a mistake when we did the slide, but it is a multilateral cooperation, extremely important. We thank you for your participation in this table. And in the context of the whole European context, which is an innovation research that's starting now, we already have a previous cooperation that is very successful. The minister has already mentioned. I want to highlight once more, I want to reinforce this once more, because I'm going to continue doing that, because we're building more and more instruments that enables us to have this collaboration. As I said, one of the instruments is the administrative arrangement. And along with CONFAP, we participate in various calls, a number of actions that we expand throughout Brazil, besides the resources that CNPq has and all the installed capacity to have the management of these actions. And we also have the budget and the install capacity of the states, which amplifies the number of participants and researchers and reinforces these actions.
In this context, with the European Union, I also would like to mention a project that is very relevant, the Project Anchor, All-Atlantic Cooperation for Research, for Ocean Research and Innovation. It has the objective of implementing the actions under the Belém Declaration. And these countries, Brazil, European Union, and South Africa, they took upon themselves commitments to increase joint actions of research in the Atlantic Ocean in the long run. And this Anchor project was extremely important. Infra is another project that aims to identify infrastructure of research in Latin America and Caribbean eligible to building a collaboration that is bi-regional, aiming to have use funds by the European Union. Also, we have cooperation actions that are multilateral. We had the 4th call, joint call of multi-telematic. We have the transnational call, Biodiversa Plus, and also we have the ERC, the European Research Council. There's also a call with them. And these actions are very strong in Brazil, precisely because of the possibility of collaboration between CNPq and CONFAP in such actions. I also would like to mention the CNPq call. It is open now, just recently, which is the observatory for the high tower of the Amazon. It's called the Atto Tower. And people now can see it. Yes, it's precisely that. It appears on TV and people are inquisitive and curious about it. Together with the ministry and CNPq, it is very important, this call, for researchers who work in this project. And we also have another one that is underway. It is a new model that we are experimenting with here at CNPq for international cooperation, which is the call 26-2021 for institutional projects, and also for doctor's degrees and postdoctorate degrees, for allowances and grants, fellowships in this area. And we have cooperation agreements that are signed for us to strengthen the international network. So this call brings this novelty. It is not individual grants. They are connected with countries to where students or researchers go. Cindy mentioned that, and Professor Tundizi also mentioned that. They said that cooperation of Brazil in several areas is extremely large in the area of health, environment, and with the UK, major cooperation. And because these networks were shaped by researchers who went there for doctorate degrees and postdocs, and they created ties. And when there's an emergency, as we had previously, the Zika virus, the COVID-19, the oil spill. So these strong international networks, together with our networks here in the country, are those who provide fast response to emergencies. So it is important that we feed these networks and that we have this continuous ongoing action by Brazilian science abroad as well. Diego also mentioned to us the important contribution by the Newton Fund, because when there's specific fund for collaboration, new projects are designed, and then we can do that with the UK, with whom we have a lot of cooperation and collaboration. I mentioned the highlights, but the invitation to the UK is thanks to our long-lasting history of collaboration and cooperation. We have several ties with agencies, universities, with researchers, and that allows us to continue our successful partnerships. And to conclude, these are some special actions that are also under the international area of CNPq. They are very important actions, and we are leading this. It is the National Consortia for Open Science. It is called Consciência. It is a world discussion, a global discussion, the protagonism of CNPq with other important institutions that are joining as well. This project, Consciência. And CNPq is together, is also there. We have universities, Embrapa, several institutions that will be able to adhere to the consortium. We are building the repository Lattice Data. Yesterday, Marisa Mamed spoke about Symbiose, PELD, and Symbiose is going to structure this information that needs to be in the repository. And Professor Tundizi, I know that PELD was created when you were the president here at CNPq, and it is such a pride, this long-lasting program, also together with foundations of support to research, the FAPs here in Brazil, with mature results and relevant results. We also have the National Observatory of Open Science and the proposal of integration of systems for management of informational platforms. We have the systems CRIS, that are Europeans, and also FCT, Foundation for Science and Technology of Portugal, so that we advance the CRIS European systems. Also, the integration of curriculum, Lattice Data, OASIS PR, and also those of Latin America and the European Union. Now, the perspectives. Very important ones for CNPq right now and for international cooperation. The redesign of actions focusing on the future and the improvement of conditions to CNPq. Establishing joint strategies for the implementation of actions programs, increasing its scope and intensifying the component of innovation. The encouragement to network research projects in ICTs with the participation of companies, CGNAC and others. The INCTs, the Institutes of Science and Technology, are very strong here in Brazil, and we should continue to support them and the participation with companies. Also promoting integration and multi-agency involvement, insurance, greater efficiency of actions in international cooperation. There are several partners that are very important, CAPES, FINEP, CONFAP, and seeking for engagement of Brazilian research groups in global challenges and greater involvement in multilateral environments of discussions of complex topics such as GRC, STS, and others. The Joint Research Council, we want to expand the discussion of these complex topics because we are sure that state-of-the-art science needs to be carried out jointly in a dialogue that is strong at the international level, bringing about priority issues for Brazil, issues that focus on the development of the country, but certainly this glance needs to be profoundly linked to the major challenges that are global. So thank you once again for being here. I am honored to be here and be able to contribute with CNPq, and I'd like to thank you all and thank this agency that is a reference. All participants have mentioned that all scientists and Brazilian institutions have gone through CNPq and owe to CNPq a lot of their path and history. Thank you, Professor Tundizi. Thank you, Professor Maria Zaira Turki, for your presentation. It was very important and it described clearly the purposes of multilateral cooperation and bilateral cooperation at CNPq. It is important to think and develop projects, thinking that science and technology together with education and training are components of social transformation. It is essential that we think that way in order for us to develop strategic programs for a country. And international cooperation and institutional cooperation has its components. Because the world is global, we live in a planet that is a system, and we need to exchange information and different experiences and strategies so that we can advance in the solving of the major challenges of mankind. We have 7.5 billion inhabitants in our planet. We had a pandemic 2 years ago. Millions of people died, millions of people became ill. And we have problems in terms of change, and we need to expand our international cooperation so that we solve these problems jointly. No country is an island. We need to work together because we are all affected. And therefore, the presence of CNPq with its international cooperation is essential for Brazil and for other countries as well, because we are a country that has a lot of diversity, 8,000 kilometers of coast, the Amazon, Pantanal, 250,000 square kilometers of flooded areas, of wetlands. So we have problems that are social, environmental, ethnical, and economic problems. They very different ones. Brazil is very rich and different in all aspects, anthropological, economic, social aspects, and therefore this diversity in the country is an opportunity also for us to expand our international cooperation in order to attract research and projects that are joint projects that are going to help us help these huge problems. Mankind is going through a very difficult moment. In addition to pandemics, we have global change. We have 2 billion people with little or with problems with access to water. We had huge numbers of people living in the outskirts of big cities that need to be able to access adequate conditions of accommodation, of living conditions and food security, etc. And all these problems of technological development need to be faced with international cooperation.
Without a question, we have had this morning a great number of information in very diverse information about cooperation, about examples of cooperation. And without a question, we must move on. I am very certain that CNPq will move on, and I want to congratulate you for all your employees and for your active participation. Without these technicians, we couldn't have had the advancements we had so far. We are pleased to hear comments and suggestions from you. From my view, a point that would be very important is to set a project for a doctor's degree project in strategical areas to send 50 scholarships students into strategic areas to increase the participation and the number of doctorate students into strategic areas. I tried to do this, but this hasn't moved on a lot. To choose strategic areas, select 50 candidates and send them to different universities to have their doctor's degrees in these areas, because that is how China made, and that is why they are like this today. So I want to massive capacitate these students into these strategic areas. Another point that is very important for our friends here in Latin America is PEG TV, which has a fundamental role to increase the participation of CNPq in PEG-PG, because it launches the Latin American researchers. There is already a network established for PEG-PG. I have some colleagues that have had their doctor's degrees with us in Uruguay, Argentina, and the increase of our interaction into PEG-PG is a strategy from the point of view of Latin America, because, as you said, Professor Marizaida, a network is set up. The researchers go back to their work, to their countries, and they establish projects. So it's very important. Of course, all the matters that were addressed by Diego, by Cindy Parker, by the minister, and by the professor are fundamental in this operation. I'm sure that CNPq in the next years will have more and more a fundamental role, a strategic role for the development of our country. And we fight to extend that, to extend the capacity and the speed of the support for these projects, for these international projects. And I would like to thank the president of CNPq Professor Evaldo, to have had this opportunity to coordinate this table with such important guests. And I want to congratulate you for your lectures, for your information. It was very important for this international cooperation. And I want to wrap this up in a brilliant way and the celebration of the 70 years of the CNPq. Thank you for the opportunity and for the audience.
Obrigado.
We end now this table. Sorry, I'm just saying goodbye. Thank you very much.
United Kingdom. Cindy.
No, obrigada a todos. Excelente evento.
Thank you, everyone. It was an excellent event. Thank you. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. I wish you all the success, Cindy. So we end now table 4. Thank you, everyone.
Recording stopped.